Spawning up in the top right position, we have got the red Terran player. He tried valiantly in game number 1 to overcome the mass mech force of his opponent, but was unable to do so. It is Pompey. And his opponent down in the bottom left. The blue Terran player, the winner of the first game with his mass battle cruiser, Raven, an incredible Viking force. It is Dzerzhinsky. Now, for anyone who doesn't really get the reference of why we're saying that, by the way, Braveheart is a terrible film, it's because there is a little bit of rivalry here. And that is because I believe Dzerzhinsky is Scottish and therefore wants to rub it in a little bit and just that, hey, we'll slay Braveheart, because how can you slay Braveheart anyway? That was such a good film. It's got to be one of the best films ever. Like, how can you be hating that? Mel Gibson, of course, just being a complete boss into that. Now, a little bit about Starcraft though, less about Braveheart. Game number 1, we saw a Reaper opening from Pompey. Now, Neoplanet S is a really good map for Reapers because there is quite a nice amount of dead cliff area that you can try and utilize around your opponent's base, and it's a slightly smaller map as well, so you can rush those over. Will we see that coming? Well, for the moment, the signs are looking like it may be. There was a 2 Rax Reaper play, actually, from Pompey in game number 1. Meanwhile, Dzerzhinsky, he's getting his gas up. He didn't get any Reapers out in the first game. He instead opted to get out a quick factory and get the Hellions, which, in the end, really saved him from that 2 Rax Reaper play that could have done so much more if the Hellions hadn't have come out. But for the moment, the scout coming out by Dzerzhinsky, he's just getting a good little look, saying, okay, well, I know there's gas there. I know there's barracks down, so you're probably getting a Reaper, and Pompey is indeed getting the Reaper. But is there going to be that second barracks? Well, for the time being, no, there isn't. The wall-off is getting completed. Meanwhile, up at Dzerzhinsky's base, he's getting a Marine once more, so he's not pumping out that Reaper quite yet. He may get it down afterwards. He's got enough gas for it now, but nope, instead opting for that reactor to come instead. So, now, this is very similar play from Dzerzhinsky to game number 1. The SUV on its way back over. The first Reaper is nearly completed. No second barracks, so a different build from Pompey compared to game number 1. He's probably just going to follow this up into a nice little Reaper expand. So the command center should be coming down fairly shortly. The Reaper coming along, making its way over to his opponent's base. Dzerzhinsky should be aware this is coming though, and we can see already he's got this Marine placed in such an optimal location where he's going to be able to pick off anything that does come in. And yep, up comes the Reaper. It's going to take the first couple of shots of fire. Marines do have higher DPS than Reapers, but Reapers can kite them, which can be really quite frustrating. Now, in comes the Reaper, gets a good little look. Of course, a double Marine production now on its way. We see the command center is being built, but all of this getting scouted by Pompey, who's already got his command center coming down on the low ground. And a little earlier than in the first game as well, because that second barracks was skipped. So, in terms of openings, things looking slightly different for Pompey, exactly the same for Dzerzhinsky though. There's the factory even coming down, the second gas, identical build to the first game, so he's following all the steps to go into battle cruisers a bit later on. But here we go, these Reapers, realizing they can't jump down there, unfortunately, and going to jump straight into the Marines. One Reaper goes down very quickly. Good little win there for Dzerzhinsky, and he's able to force that back. The factory for Pompey nearly finished up. The factory for Dzerzhinsky even closer to finishing. He's just now got his second gas. Still only the 1 gas at the moment for Pompey, who is opting to take a very quick third CC. So that super fast CC is always going to be a good thing to see, because that is when you can, well, really start macroing up like a complete beast. And as long as you can defend against any of the aggression that your opponent could start putting onto you, well, guess what? Taking an economical lead is going to be really important. So, for the time being, we do just have the first Hellions coming out. Oh, we can see Hellbats again from Dzerzhinsky into that double Hellbat drop. It did relatively good damage in the first game, but getting it the same kind of effect on Neoplanet S, especially if the third command center is sitting there, then, well, you're going to be able to just see those coming in really nice early. And after Pompey took a lot of damage in that first game from those Hellbat drops, I wouldn't be surprised if he chucks down missile turrets really quite early, or does something like get Widow Mines down in order to try and defend it. But there's the scan from Dzerzhinsky. We'll see the first Widow Mine there. We'll see the Starport finishing up. Of course, this could also be Widow Mine drops. It's another viable strategy that could come down. Could just be in order to make sure that any drops that are coming in don't be able to get through. And by this placement, most likely what it will be. Up here, though, for Dzerzhinsky. He's got now 3 Hellions, the 4th one just popping out now. The starport nearly finished. No armory as of yet, as far as I've... Oh, no, sorry, he does have the armory down. What am I talking about? So, yep, armory down. Going to be started getting out a couple of Hellbats. If he so wants to, ready with the starport, he can go for those Hellbat drops once again. Reaper for the time being though, that's getting forced back. Pompey taking his nice and relatively early engineering bay. The Reaper does die, the 4 Hellions shown. 1 Viking though has come out, and that was before anything else for Pompey here, so he's really getting ready for any Hellbat drops that could be coming in. And of course the Hellbats are on their way, the first medevac is also coming down. These Marines just chilling down here in case any drops would be coming out for Pompey, but for the moment, these Hellions just going to try and poke through here, but 4 Marines in the bunker are going to really deny this pretty hard. You can't run past that without losing at least 2 of the Hellions, and that's if you run nicely, but they're just going to fall back. They're going to get back to the safety. Meanwhile, the Widow Mine's still down, the Viking still patrolling, and the second Viking even going to come down and start patrolling down here. Of course, the first medevac is down on the field though for Dzerzhinsky. He's going to be ready to go across the map, get some drop action going. Will Pompey be able to defend it up nicely? We'll have to wait and see, but for the time being, he's just happily macroing up. Of course, his 3rd orbital command is done, so he's got an extra SCV production per cycle. He's got the additional mule, and all of those things really can start adding up, especially when this double engineering base down, and we could see double upgrades getting started very shortly indeed. Already, +1 infantry weapons coming down. There's the siege tank too. Oh, this drop is going to get spotted by the Viking. There is the Widow Mine and missile turret there as well. Dzerzhinsky can't afford... If he boosts in here, he's going to take a lot of damage. The Widow Mine is going to trigger, and that got shut down so hard. No damage done by that Hellbat drop. Brilliant defense there by Pompey, and Dzerzhinsky is not going to be happy with that, and therefore he's lost a decent chunk of stuff. The work count is exactly equal. In terms of the resources lost, it's 400 to 200 after the Reapers died for Pompey, but Dzerzhinsky, he would have wanted to do a lot more of that, at least a couple of SCV kills. And following on from that push, we see that Pompey just happy to go and take his 3rd base. This is a really nice early 3rd, and once you get that secured up, then yeah, lots of muling down to that 3rd, which means your natural doesn't mine out quite as quickly. It also means that you've got the additional income from splitting the SCVs better, and for the moment, Dzerzhinsky doesn't even have any sign of trying to take a 3rd. He hasn't even started the command center constructing, and if you can get that down, well, yeah, then he can have a bit of a chance into this. But all while Pompey is at 3 bases, as long as he doesn't get denied, well, guess what? He's going to be in a fairly good spot. Mule's getting cooled down here, and Dzerzhinsky once more just getting a lot of Hellions, a lot of Hellbats. He is sitting quite comfortably, getting +1 mech upgrades attack, and yeah, all in all, we just see that a good number of factories down, these Marines and Vikings still happily patrolling, making sure that no drops come in and do any damage to Dzerzhinsky. While Pompey getting up his armory, he's got +1 infantry armor on its way, +2 infantry weapons going to get started as soon as the armory is done, but the 3rd orbital command is up and running. Widow Mines just placed down strategically, making sure that any drops that come in would get taken out as quickly as possible. But these two, they're looking pretty equal. They're both looking pretty passive, and not too much scary is occurring. So, while non-scary things are happening, it gives you a nice chance just to really focus on your macro. You can see both players spending their money very effectively, keeping their supply really quite close, and the only thing that Dzerzhinsky's got to be careful of is this kind of push-out timing with the 1-1. If +1 infantry armor should be done pretty much, well, it depends whether the push waits. If it waits for +1 infantry armor, it'd be quite good. Stim isn't done, neither is combat shield, so pushing him without any of those 3 upgrades would be a bit of interesting timing, but it does mean that there's not that many tanks down, and actually Dzerzhinsky doesn't have 2 of them even sieged up for the time being. The medevac count for Pompey isn't crazy high. There's only 3 of them on the field, but only 1 with the army itself. Now the tank's trying to get into a good little siege up position at the same time. Dzerzhinsky moving out. That means all of his tanks are unsieged. This could be really problematic for him. The first shells coming down. There's the medevac loading up, picking up a lot of those Marines, and Dzerzhinsky trying to fall back. Of course, if you start losing tech labs, start losing the factories, that is where your production really starts to fall down incredibly quickly. But the Marines just dealing some nice damage to tanks, attempting to get themselves in a good position. The Viking on Viking fight is going in favor of Dzerzhinsky at the moment. He's annihilating the tanks down on the low ground, and all of the infantry up in the main is getting absolutely slaughtered. The Hellbats, 1 tank does fall as it pops out, but all of the tanks supporting have now been killed, and this is where Dzerzhinsky says, okay, I'm going to clean that up really comfortably, really quickly, really easily. And now I can go for that aggressive push I wanted to do. +1 vehicle weapons is now completed. +1 upgrades done for Terran infantry on Pompey's side with +2 half finished. He's also got stim and combat shield now done, which is going to be really helpful. But this third base, which has been up for a long time now, well, that is in the direct firing line. There isn't too much in order to defend it. It's a small group of infantry and a couple of medevacs against this massive mech force. So many Hellbats there. Just in terms of the army supply, it's 41 for Pompey to 90 of Dzerzhinsky. That is a tremendous lead in terms of just how much stuff he's got down. One Hellion on its way in, going to say, oh, okay, high SCVs, just going to start chilling away at you. Also block everything off. A couple of Marauders getting caught out of position here. This push for Dzerzhinsky looking very scary. The one tank up on the high ground is going to get taken out. That means the currently Pompey has no additional tanks. He's trying to move over. One medevac's worth of Marines still with this Hellion. It's already racked up 9 kills. We've got more Marines sitting down to the side here. We've got the Viking pushing forward, just trying to see, is there any tanks there? The Hellbats still in a relatively good spot. The tank sieging up in an even better spot now. So far, 12 workers killed by Dzerzhinsky to 0. That gives him a relatively equal economy, but that third base has pumped out so many additional SCVs. Pompey still 6 ahead, and that's something which is a bit of a problem for Dzerzhinsky, because his third only now just getting started at the 15-minute 40 mark. So he's got to be careful, but already we see Pompey thinking this is an all-in. He tries to put all of his SCVs directly into the Hellbats. They get annihilated, and this is now looking very good for Dzerzhinsky, and he is going to be able to